Hello friends. So today's video is going to be a book haul, or more accurately a pre-order haul. So this is kind of an impromptu video. I saw that Barnes & Noble was doing a 25% off pre-order sale, and so I wanted to get the word out about that, but I also wanted to, one, highlight the importance of pre-ordering. And then, because I know a lot of you are not necessarily in a position where you can regularly pre-order books, I also wanted to do a giveaway so that I can get one of you a book, one of your anticipated releases of this year. And so I'll have details for how to enter that in the description bar down below. But I wanted to go through an article that somebody has written about the significance of pre-orders, why they matter, and then go through a bunch of the books that I did pre-order. Before I read through all of these different points that go into detail about pre-orders, I do want to make sure that in talking about this, it doesn't come across as a guilt trip for those of you who, like I said, aren't in a position where you can pre-order books, whether that be because you know that you don't have the space to have books, or maybe you don't live in an area where books are readily available and accessible. Maybe you are in a position right now where you just can't afford books, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I know sometimes people will be like, well, you can still request things at your library, but some of you don't even have libraries around, and so that's not really an option for you as well. So anybody that sees this who has their own channel or their own blog or their own bookstagram or book talk or anything like that, feel free to also just steal the idea and try and do some giveaways for some pre-orders. It helps some authors, it gets books into people's hands, which is lovely. But anyway, all that said, I wanted to dive into this particular post that somebody had. The person who wrote this, they talked about how when they wrote a book, they did not realize how important pre-orders were, and then they came to realize that a lot of people, one, not only don't realize how important pre-orders are, but just have no idea how a lot of the publishing world works. And so they wanted to kind of compile a lot of information into one place. And if you're somebody who is like, I already know all this stuff, I just want to see what you pre-ordered, I'll go ahead and have a timestamp. You can skip ahead. But their first point, it says, in advance of publication, an author's publisher is often reading the tea leaves for signs of the elusive buzz about a book. The number of books being ordered early by retailers is a primary indicator as to whether the market is getting excited about it. When the publisher sees multiple advance orders being made, it inspires confidence and may encourage them to invest more to promote the book and to help the author find even more readers. The second point says, with hundreds of books published every year, popping into your local bookshop and asking them to order an author's book for you in advance of it coming out is one of the most supportive things you can do. It not only draws attention to a title that they may not previously have been aware of, but it also demonstrates to booksellers that there is an interest in the book, and this may encourage them to order in more stock in advance of publication day. Booksellers are the champions of the industry, and their support of a book through enthusiastic hand selling can change its fortune. Pre-ordering from your local bookshop also means you are supporting their business to thrive and survive in an increasingly tough climate for them, so you're performing two great deeds in one. They don't elaborate on their third point, they just kind of say, if an author is in contention to hit the bestseller list, the pre-orders can make it happen, as all pre-orders count towards the first week of sales rather than being spread across a number of different weeks. The fourth point says, the dark arts of the internet means that shopping algorithms pick up on the traffic around the book. This often means an author's book will get further promoted online by online retailers. Authors will sometimes share a link to the Amazon website for ease of readers, but please consider all other book buying avenues first before sending your business that way. If you can support your local bookshop, please do, but if ordering online is more convenient for you, there are still alternatives. For example, Kenny's Bookshop in Ireland offers free shipping worldwide, as do many brick and mortar stores. Point 5, authors love libraries, and it is also very valuable to them if you request that your local library pre-order their book for you. Not only do these books all count as sales, but authors also receive a royalty for every book that is borrowed from a library. Many of us are writers today because of the time we spent in libraries, and would love you to support us by supporting them. And then their sixth and final point says, one thing to mention is that customers normally don't have to pay now for any pre-orders. If you order online, you will usually only pay when the book is shipped, or in bookshops when you collect it. So if you're planning to buy the book at some point anyway, getting the pre-order in won't cost you in advance. So I just wanted to read through some of those in case you didn't know any of that information, now you do. I talk about all the time my local bookstores. I'm constantly shouting them out. I have done vlogs where I go into my local bookstores, and I also have basically a little tour of our bookstore. So I'll have those linked because, like they were saying, supporting your local bookshops is also very important. But also, not everybody has local bookshops that are readily available to them. Maybe Barnes & Noble is the only route that you can take. And also, because they're having this 25% off sale on pre-orders, I know that makes what would potentially have been a price point you couldn't hit before, now you can hit it. So that's kind of why I wanted to highlight this opportunity, and also I wanted to let you know about some books I pre-ordered. So jumping into it, I pre-ordered, of course, Fury Song. This is the third and final book in the Fireborn series, and I'm excited, and I am sad, and I'm scared. I have talked a lot about Fireborn. I don't really need to go more in depth with it, and I probably won't go all that in depth about a lot of these because I have either mentioned them in anticipated releases or I've, talked about them a lot previously. So Fury Song, obviously number 1 here. I also pre-ordered a Venom Dark and Sweet. This is the sequel to A Magic Steeped in Poison, which was a debut fantasy that came out this year, and then the sequel is also coming out this year. I will have my video where I talk about Magic Steeped in Poison linked. I really enjoyed this one. I thought the setting was really cool. I thought the whole idea of there being a competition based around the magical art of tea making, where literally there is a sense of magic within it, was really cool. And I just had a good time with that book. I really enjoyed it. And the fact that the sequel is coming out so soon is amazing. I want all the best for this author. They seem really sweet. They had the cutest little picture of the cover of their book, which is so beautiful, put on a cake, and I was like, ah. And then I also wanted cake. I also pre-ordered Babel by R.F. Kuang. This sounds fascinating, and it's following this dark academia type of setting where in translating certain works, if I'm understanding correctly, this is a passion for a lot of people. It's like going to a very prestigious school. It's a great opportunity, but at the same time, I believe the characters are having to wrestle with the fact that by going to this elite place and taking advantage of these opportunities that would better themselves, translating certain works gives information to people that would then take that information and use it for bad things, we'll say. So the conquering of other people's and understanding other people's cultures so that they can trick them and manipulate them. I cannot wait for this one. I know it's one of the most anticipated releases for a lot of you. I've been seeing people starting to get some arcs, and I'm like, oh, it's almost here. After that, we have The Dragon's Promise, which is the sequel to Six Crimson Cranes. I have many a time talked about this book as being just so cute. It's so fun. It feels like kind of like a family-friendly movie that's like kind of for kids, but then also it's fun for adults to watch too. It feels like that in book form. A book that only recently I realized was coming out soon, and it came onto my radar as a result of following the author on Instagram. I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even realize you had another book coming out, is Belladonna. I think that's how it's pronounced. And this is written by Adeline Grace, who wrote All the Stars and Teeth. It's a duology that is very sea-centered, and I thought this author, the way they describe things, it just felt so vibrant and colorful and alive. And so while the story itself was fun, it was really the descriptions that I just ate up. It's kind of what kept me wanting to keep reading. And so I've been wanting to see what this author does next. I don't actually know a whole lot about this particular book, but I enjoyed that duology, and so I'm excited to see what she does with this one. I also pre-ordered The Book of Night by Holly Black. This is Holly Black's adult fantasy debut. And it's funny because some of the books that has been compared to, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. But also, I am very curious to see what Holly Black does in writing adult fantasy. I think just having read the Cruel Prince trilogy, or the Folk of the Air is the actual trilogy title, there is this, I feel like she can go darker, and I feel like she can get a lot creepier, and I'm really excited to see how she explores that in this particular book. A sequel that I pre-ordered would be For the Throne. This is the sequel to For the Wolf, and that first one is kind of a hybrid of Beauty and the Beast and Little Red Riding Hood. It's a mix of fantasy and romance, I would say. It's quite atmospheric, and I'm interested in reading this second book. That's kind of all there is to it. We also have This Vicious Grace and A Ballad of Perilous Graves. Both of these are anticipated releases of mine. I've talked about them quite a lot in those anticipated releases, so I'll have those linked. But one of them seems kind of like maybe there's going to be a romantic subplot that would be in This Vicious Grace. And it also just seems like it's going to be a lot of politicking and trying to outmaneuver and outsmart other people. And so kind of sounds like, I don't want to say like my guilty pleasure type of thing, but the kind of plot line that I always am down to check out. And then A Ballad of Perilous Graves sounds like the complete opposite. It sounds so unique, very different. It takes place in, I believe, a fantastical version of New Orleans where music is magic. And I'm like, I don't quite know what that means, but I want to find out. I also pre-ordered another book with the word ballad in it, A Ballad of Never After, which is the sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which I just found so silly and fun last year. It was such a good time, and so I'm very ready. It's like some books you go into and you're like, I can't wait for this book to destroy me and make me sad. And with this one, I'm like, I can't wait to be happy, because I know that's probably the feeling I'm going to have when I read that book. After that, we have Electra. This is written by the same author who wrote Ariadne. And from what I have gathered, having read Ariadne and just seeing some things about Electra, it very much feels like this author is trying to write stories that we're familiar with, but from the perspectives that we don't often see. And then last, I pre-ordered the next 2 volumes of the Full Metal Alchemist Full Metal editions. So Full Metal Alchemist is amazing. If you have never checked it out, it is one of the greatest stories of all time. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. That's it for my pre-order haul. I will have a bunch of things linked in the description bar, how to enter the giveaway, as well as the article that I was reading from. I'll have that linked as well. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.